The disruption that we had this weekend was a necessary shutdown we had to do in order to replace a 30-year-old transformer at Waiala. Just want people to understand that we staged that over two phases. The first phase was a shutdown where we put in place temporary transformers so we can keep operation as long as we can continue, and then we put in place permanent transformers, and then we switch the power across to those. Unfortunately, because the system does not have redundancy, when we carry out such major repairs, we have to cause disruptions. So the discussion we had with the minister, one of the early focus, and within the next 6 months, our focus is going to be around building at least some redundancy to be able to deal with situations like that, and where we will be investing in urgent upgrades and renewals of our transformers, pumps, primarily electrical and mechanical components which are at the end of their life, and which will give us some redundancy to be able to deal with similar situations. But water infrastructure by definition requires long-term thinking, it requires long-term planning. So we're also doing that. That is the second prong of our sort of improvement strategy. We are working on Water Sector 2050, which is effectively our plan for from now all the way to 2050, what type of infrastructure we need, what does climate change look like, what does economy look like, what population growth looks like, and we are now planning to put in place a strategy to identify our key infrastructure investment needs from now till 2050. The nature of water infrastructure is such that we have to think beyond our nose to be able to stay ahead of the game, and that is why Water Sector 2050 is going to be a key initiative in that space. But that is not to say that we're not dealing with the situation right now. We are also dealing with that by looking at some critical investments in building some redundancy by renewing, as I said, electrical components, switchboards, pumps, and providing some additional storages as well. So that's our plan. I will ask our Chief Operating Officer to just give you a quick snapshot on some unique elements of Suva Nausori system. And I've said that before, I'll repeat it. When we built the water supply system in Fiji 50 years ago, East had a more reliable rainfall pattern. So if you notice, in the west we had Vaturu Dam. East does not have large dams or storages. We have water supply from rivers. Rainfall has changed dramatically, and our Chief Operating Officer will brief you on that. And when that variation occurs, it impacts on our flows in the rivers where we get our water supply from. Suva Nausori already has a daily gap of 3 million liters between supply and demand. When the rainfall goes down and the river levels go down and our ability to produce gets impacted, that 3 million liter quickly multiplies, which is what was experienced in Tamahua, where we had a drop of production by another 7 million liters. So we were dealing with a gap of 10 million liters every day. There's no system in the world that can cope with that. And people living along the ridge, along Princess Road, everybody felt it because the climate variability, because the river flows going down, we just did not have the ability to produce enough production at Kamavua. And I'll ask the crew to just show you how the catchment behavior is changing, and that is why a long-term planning and more climate resilient structure is needed for us to provide a more resilient water supply system. Thank you.